Hello and welcome to another edition, a late night edition of Indiepocalypse Radio. I'm your host, Andrew, the editor, the coordinator, the etc. of all that, which is Indiepocalypse, and of course the host of Indiepocalypse Radio, which is somewhere between a post-con hangout or mid-con hangout and an interview show. We have some guests here today from the world of art and game development, as we're wont to do. First, because you may know from a lot of illustrative work throughout the world, in the world of games, to most closely tied to this project, the art director. Did I get the title correct? On
Yeah.
Cartomancy came out. Was it 2 years ago at this point?
hmm
Actually, now I think about it, oh, the art book just recently came out. I don't know, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. Um, it's Amy C. Amy, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. I'm gonna send a message, um, to the someone a second guest real quick. So forgive me if I do not pay attention for but a moment. Uh,
Yeah, no worries.
Sent the message. Hello, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? Uh,
I'm doing good. Doing a good, like, relaxing weekend for Thanksgiving holiday.
yes, yeah, I had a 3 day work week. Loving a 3 day
Yeah,
work week.
basically.
Uh, Although I spent like 6 hours yesterday making a spreadsheet, but
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
yeah, well, it was one of those things that kind of needed to get done,
Totally.
because I have to pay all these people who are in the apocalypse, and I'm gonna have to pay a lot of them.
I
I'm gonna have to pay
mean,
all
you've
of.
like,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that you've worked with so many people, so I'm more than sure that spreadsheet is
Yes.
pretty like long, extensive, if
Yeah.
anything.
Well, I'm gonna have to pay all of them. Um, Following the pledge drive, which is like 500 people, 600 people, and you can do that very quickly in PayPal. But I had to set it up so that I could get that information to that build those CSVs super fast. But this is boring talk about spreadsheets. Uh,
Oh,
People are not
fair.
here to talk about spreadsheets. I hope, hopefully, but uh, those aside, oh, so no, if people, I mentioned it up at the top, but if people are unfamiliar with what cartomancy is, I was gonna say was, but it still is. That's the thing people forget about games is even two
Mhm.
years later, they still exist. They're still kind of unchanged.
Mhm.
Oh, what is it?
Yeah. Cartomancy Anthology was essentially a collection of like it's based on the major arcana, so there's like 22 games replicating like what the tarot cards meanings were, and it was made by a bunch of developers. We had 70 plus people, and basically every team that was assigned to a card got to make a, a small game that was inspired by that card meaning and their interpretation. And yeah, so your gameplay was essentially like playing a spread and getting a tarot reading from the video game.
Yeah, and just recently, was that right? It was like a week ago. It was very recent. This is a very coincidental. Very rarely do I book people properly for like release booking, releases, announcements.
Mhm.
But like the art book, am I correct? Just came out.
Yeah, I think like a month ago there was like
Okay,
a Halloween update on on itch, and it was explaining that the Mac version had launched, and then I think the art book, like what you're saying, is like released.
perfect. And if people are unfamiliar with your broader work, how would you describe if you're like, hey, someone's like, hey, what do you do? Not necessarily professionally,
Oof.
but within the you're in a familiar art space and someone's, hey, what's up? What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, I've always enjoyed the title visual narrator because it's something that I actually learned from the SVA MFA program. It was
Okay.
something that I was like I like when I was looking into master programs, that one particularly stuck with me because people who graduated from the program like called themselves visual narrators because it was so broad for them. They were like
Right.
looking to be storytellers just in any visual sense. And I was like, wait, I really resonate with that title because like I feel like I my background is in illustration. I always loved comics, but when I started getting into video games, it was kind of like, well, this is still like visual narration.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, so I don't know. I refer to myself as a visual narrator, but then like I guess for the general public who aren't very like familiar with arts, I usually say like a digital artist.
Yeah. Right. Because
Yeah.
like the space for what you can do with a piece of art once you've made it is extremely broad. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, do I put this inside of Godot? Do I put words on top of it? Uh,
Yeah.
do I draw 60 more of them in sequence?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There is so much like uh, to what like any singular image can be applied that I never heard that term. Sorry, what was it again? Like narrative or
Yeah, like yeah, yeah, yeah. Visual narrator.
visual narrator. Yes, no, that's a because I always think about terms and how we need more of them for things that
Hmm.
like fit like games themselves are something that fit clumsily into the category of game. Uh,
Yeah.
when so many of them like do not are not the same are not even like close to being the same thing outside of they we control them somehow.
Yeah, like it's so funny to me because I find that some people find the term game restrictive when they like prefer the term like interactive experience or something like interactive design,
Right.
which I totally like see the connection there, but I think that like the I guess connotation still feels weird to have against games versus interactive design.
You're right, right,
I don't know.
because I feel like there is a whole art space that you wouldn't think of as games at all that uses
Right.
like that kind of more interactive plus another word sort of thing.
Hmm. I think maybe it's usually assumed that games have a loop, like some sort of mechanical loop.
Right.
Like that's why you have like a game versus an experience.
Right. And what is that like mechanical loop even mean, or you're like
Yeah.
oh, what does it mean to have a it is like an odd sort of thing that I wonder if that could be like a almost uh, one of the what's the word I'm looking for, like split points of like, does this have a clear loop of a thing that I'm doing over and over again with different set dressing uh,
Hmm.
versus like a more linear kind of experience, which is
Yeah, I
definitely
think it.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no. I was just gonna echo you and say that I think it's very. I think it's interesting how broad design has come, especially when we talk about like game development and the digital arts. Just because anything can be designed as long as we have, I don't know, an element of intention.
Right, right, and as access to publishing becomes easier, and as tools become the tools to then also publish become more accessible and everything, you get a lot of people who are you get more experimental or just like outsider voices just sort of trying things
Hmm.
that don't easily fit within existing categories.
Yeah, it's interesting because like as you're mentioning like outside of categories, I remember being in discussion, I want to say like last year, um, this idea of like interactive comics are not as like commonly seen nowadays. Like I think the most like I guess famous one is Homestuck, right? Because
Right.
that's like an interactive comic, but in some way it felt like a game.
Right. And
Um,
I didn't even realize that that's broken now, I think.
right.
That I was reading I forget what I was reading. I was reading a blog someone and they alluded to like, oh, that's broken now, which feels like a weird thing for
hmm
it to just like not work anymore.
Because it was like a staple of the internet for a
Right.
time period.
It was like, oh yeah, this is it. You know, it defines a heavy part of like culture or whatever.
Yeah, and it was like really we don't want to give too much credit where it's maybe not due, but like it always did feel like a pillar of like an internet experience. Like you
Yeah.
have some level of interaction with it, whether it's like the fandom, whether it's the content, or whether it's like the memes that would like kind of spread across the internet.
Right. There's the broad questions of like, do you have Undertale in the same way without Homestuck? You know,
True. No, that's really true.
Without like, you know, if Toby Fox doesn't have like the, you know, that kind of culture behind the
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
giving it like a huge boost, like where is that? You know, uh,
100%.
and that's all these little things that are sort of easy to miss and forget about. You know, uh, and it's there's definitely, you know, do not the shadow of Homestuck looms long. You know,
Absolutely.
and eternal.
Even if it's not there, the shape of it is still there.
Right,
Internet.
right.
And I bring it all up because I think interactive comics reminds me of a time period where like I mean this is also pretty similar to like when people had like base website design.
Yeah.
But like you could like kind of explore a comic. And it's not like you click on a picture and it goes to the next page, but like you could go back in a room, read the like I wanna if I can find my notes for this. There's a specific artist who I'm a big fan of who does these like digital comics that explores a space.
Okay.
Um, oh gosh, it's gonna make me have to log in. Let's see if I can look elsewhere. But yeah, like I think that I think like as I was saying, like the idea that something is a game sometimes for some people is limiting, but like interactive comics that for a long period of time was like pre like common game design, like before itch, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
interactive comics was kind of common practice, but like I don't feel like it is as much anymore.
Right, right. It feels like there was I wonder how much of that is like um just like, you know, commercialism conquers creativity of like, you know, this, you know, pre-webtoon. Um
Yeah. Yeah, before scrolling like comics. You're
right.
totally right on that.
Like where maybe people like you know, what defines a comic or you know, what are examples of successful comics, that sort of thing feels less strictly defined so that people are like playing around more because they don't necessarily know what rules they need to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I found my notes for it, but M. Carroll, E.M.
yes,
Carroll.
yeah, very classic comic artist that's been around for
Mm-hmm.
like God. I say, oh, how long has M. Carroll been around? You know,
I know. I have no idea.
also you know, also someone who's touched games to some degree too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that game? The Yog. I think that was it.
Oh, I think so.
I believe they worked on the Yog, which was like an old Hand-Eye Society uh, a Comics X games, probably from like 2015 or something ridiculous like that.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Like a long time ago.
Yeah,
But
back
like
when
I feel like content like this has been always kind of in the back burner, even if they're
yeah
not the forefront examples.
yeah because it's always like, but this the cool thing about this, and this I think this is part of the thing is it's on a website, and who goes to websites?
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of what you lose when you stop going to websites is people have to like fit their work within the confines of, you know, this very narrow field of what, Twitter or Blue Sky or Itch or Steam uh, fits,
Yeah.
But I feel
Yeah, it's
like,
very interesting. Like,
yeah.
you keep going.
No, no. Whenever I'm talking, I mean, the rule is just go right through me.
Right? You're so
I'll be
good.
here next week and the week afterwards and the week afterwards. You're here just this week, or I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you're invited back future weeks, of course, but currently,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I was like like echoing again was simply that like I think like digital art has like a weird like what you're saying, like that box that people are fitting into social like because it's like marketing, right? It's like
right,
I have to show my work here, otherwise people won't find it.
right.
It's
How do I
very
get
strange.
people to my website?
Hmm.
Yeah, like how do I like I can sure I could, make my giant infinite canvas, uh, and try that, but what will that do if nobody goes to my website?
Hmm. Hmm.
The friggin' Z-axis. Did you ever? I wonder if I could find it. Did you ever see like Scott McCloud's like whole infinite canvas? I think he made a page of it too.
Oh,
Of like
believe so.
it was like the idea of a comic that like operates in like
Oh, Scott McCloud,
non-linear
the one who
space.
made the yeah, love his books.
Cause I'm pretty sure he had one on his page at some point, but I don't remember where it is. His beautiful website that was clearly made in like 2002 and then
Yeah,
never again.
might be this is what you're looking for. It's so it is like kind of like a portal in time.
Yeah, no, he. I thought I'm pretty sure. There's maybe there's one of these is that because I feel like he at one point did like a similar like yeah this is him like hey what if I just messed around with the panels and made them all weird loop de
Yeah.
loops. I always felt like there was one maybe that was like a big maybe just there was just an example of it in one of the books of like hey what if you could just go backwards and forwards and it was just like panels in every direction,
Gosh,
which is like
Scott's work is so revolutionary.
it is just like the idea of just obsessing over a medium,
Yeah.
which is even if it's not like the stuff some of the maybe the stuff doesn't land, maybe people aren't 100% correct, but it's just fascinating to think about things.
Yeah, and it's kind of like experimenting for the sake of like what why not? Or like what would happen? And like if it doesn't go anywhere, that's okay.
Yeah, right. It's just you'll never fail unless you try.
Yeah.
But I guess you also
I
never
also,
succeed.
mhm. I was gonna say this also reminds me of, like the upbring or not upbringing, but like the uptake in neo cities and people
Yes.
making their like old inspired sites.
Yeah, there's mountains of like neo city sites now of people like
Hmm.
getting back into the web because people are social media is nightmarish.
Yeah. People crave the old like online experience.
Right, it's kind of like I don't need to have everyone's access to me or whatever. The idea of because it's really bizarre of just saying something out into the void and hoping someone talks back to you.
Yeah, true.
A very like bizarre way to like have conversation, and it's
It's
so
kind of nice to be found. Like, I think that's like one of the nice things about NeoCities that like the social media sites algorithmically, you need to be found via you posting. Like you have to be heard, essentially.
right.
But like stuff like NeoCities and such, it's kind of like you just get found as a page. Like you don't promote it or anything. It's just like you stumble upon it.
You're right, or like you find it through a different website, and it's not like you then don't just like hit a share button. You either leave. This is the thing. It's a really nice thing of like you either just leave the page or you actively engage with it.
Yeah, like comments are more common with certain sites, or like people leaving notes on comments. Or
Right.
sorry, leaving notes on a site. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is like a kind of like it's part of the reason I very deliberately bundle all the games together. One of the reasons,
Hmm.
besides just like doing like an infinite like what no, not a combo page, whatever you call those like group sale pages, is like forcing everybody to download all of the games because I think that's like this. That's one of the strengths of of an anthology is that sometimes like one or two names will pull someone in, but then you've got like 13 others
Yeah.
there that they're like, oh, I might as well try these out. Because I think it can be very easy to just share and move on with your life and never think about
Totally.
something the things that you're sharing. And websites help to alleviate that because there's nothing to share from. It's like a thing you maybe bookmark.
Yeah.
It's kind of just for you.
Yeah, it is just kind of you find it and like at most you send the link, right? But it's
Right.
not like easy to share on a post.
Right. And it helps like there's like these sort of issue of well uh the trying to like create content. You gotta properly create
Yeah, yeah.
content. Or like, oh, I don't want to share this because it wouldn't be good for my content. I can't repost too much. People won't follow my content anymore.
Right.
Or
Like
whatever.
somehow it replaces what you built.
Yeah, it's really I don't know about this whole internet thing. Eh, Not sure. Maybe we should log off. Maybe I should turn off at like 5 o'clock local time. You gotta
Hmm.
move on with your life.
Yeah. Um, it's really fun because I think, especially since coming into games,
Yeah.
um, so for context, I came into games about 2020 because I decided to take online courses um to like educate myself on games. Like I had been trying to work on games, I think since 2019-ish, around there. I was fascinated in the genre, but I only started taking the time to like take a course and learn how to make it by 2020.
Yeah.
And and I think there's an element that I always found really exciting about when you make a game is that kind of like compilation of work into something. Like I think, you know, mm, when
Yeah.
you
Like
do,
you can have a lot of disparate pieces that took a lot of work, but it doesn't feel like anything.
yeah,
Like it would be like if you wrote a novel. Like I wrote page one, and then I wrote page seven, then I wrote page 26,
exactly. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it just doesn't feel like it's done until
Hmm.
until it's all like bundled together. Yes, and it is like sometimes you can a game isn't done until it's like all the way done,
Hmm.
and then
And
like
I think it's so cool that um the way you build those stories are kind of like, not to say chaotic,
right,
but it's like like explain this better. Like in my head, it's like if I make a comic, there's a very like simple standard process. Not to say everyone uses the exact same process, but like you make your, your narrative beats, you make your, thumbnails, you make, like there's a little bit of
right,
like a general scope to kind of foresee the project. I think for games, what was always interesting is that like where my attention runs first is kind of where I like build up that narrative, at least for me in my experience, that visual narrative, like that to me is why visual narration changes when I like started going into games, is because
Yeah.
the narrative beats as I write them and I discover them is kind of chaotic in the way that they're made based
Right.
on like attention span or based on like interest. And then as a game, it's kind of built around that.
Yeah, because you can't like make a game from start to finish. You know, front to back. They don't really work easily that way.
Hmm.
So you have to like it lends itself to that because can't you can't just like, oh, I'll thumbnail up my game real quick, uh,
Yeah.
because imagine drawing a comic and you're going like, this character keeps, I don't know why, but this one character, rest of the characters look fine, but this one character keeps breaking. I don't understand why. Like that doesn't really happen. Uh, and then it is kind of uh, uh, works front to whether or not it works, so to speak. It works front to back.
Like you don't narratively, I mean, and also, every person does their process differently. But for
Right.
me, it has never come easily to do like deciding the player experience before I've started making the pieces.
Right. Because sometimes what even you know does player experience even mean? Like, do you what if you don't even care about this idea of player
Exactly,
experience?
yeah.
What if you're like, your experience is what I want to be? Um, Speaking of experiences, I mean, you have a lot of experiences in life, and I want to know your experience with rock. What is your favorite type of rock?
Um, Rock. I'm thinking of the physical, real stone. Are you talking about the music or the stone?
It's either one is up to you. Open
Okay,
ended.
that's amazing. Um, I actually collect a decent amount of like gems and like crystals. I don't know enough to be like a crystal person. I don't know
Yes.
anything about that, to be quite honest. Um, I think they're very beautiful, obviously.
Yes.
Um, and I got very obsessed with this one like rock. Um, because you know how people would get really obsessed with like marble and like
Yeah.
marbling. There's this rock, and let me see if I get the name right. Um, there was this rock because in like Chinese culture, you have like your signature um stone and your name. It's like a stamp with your name on it.
Okay.
Um, and it's like literally just a rectangle. You just kind of like stamp your name
Yeah.
as a signature. And so I got really obsessed with what rock would I want if I got to customize mine with any type of rock. And there's this rock called chicken blood, and it's so interesting to me because it just like not to say it has marbling, but it has like a gradient effect that I
Yes.
really am fascinated by.
I'm looking up because
Um,
this is a new rock for me.
it's a new rock. It's called chicken blood. It's kind of marvelous. It's like it has a marbling kind
Yeah.
of feature, but I kind of see it as like a gradient almost. But I think it obviously depends on the rock itself. I mean, it probably comes in all sorts of shapes and forms, but um, that's the most extensive knowledge I have about rocks. Is the
That's
one rock that I was obsessed with.
that's a perfectly fine amount of. I am looking at all these rocks are sold. Ah, here we go. Chicken blood stone seal, only starting at 500.
Hmm.
Oh, there they are, little seals on the bottom. Uh, but this is also live auctioneers. And now,
Oh yeah, yeah.
follow up question. Uh,
Mhm.
the second Indiepocalypse question, that was a transition. I took you by surprise of the two Indiepocalypse radio questions that have were submitted for a long time have become standard questions.
Oh, I love that.
But they're fun little like not litmus tests, but sort of are. And the question is, know someone where the previous one is open to interpretation. This one is can be strictly optional, which is
Oh,
do you have a favorite Toho character?
a favorite Toho character. Okay, so I was never. I always make the joke of like I don't go to this school.
Yes.
I never went to this school, so I never played any of these dang games. I loved seeing Toho content
Okay.
because it was just everywhere.
Yes.
Like there was no point you could not like know of this series, game, fandom and the bullet hell that it is. Um, I think my favorite Toho is, and because also they're Bad Apple. Bad
Yes.
Apple is completely based off of it,
Right.
which is
All
like
those.
iconic, famous.
Yes, it is. It is. It is fighting neck and neck with Doom of people putting it on things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if, some could say it like is around the same time as Vocaloid. Like they're kind of like hand in hand of like the eras they're coming from.
Right. Right.
Um,
And it is yes eternal in a way.
mhm. I'm trying to see if there's the character that I would know visually by hand, but I'm gonna send you a picture because I wouldn't know the character's name.
Okay.
Um, but this is the one that I've seen occasionally in content.
Okay. I do not know
Um,
that one off my sight, but I will identify. I will figure out this Toho.
or the main girl with the big red bow.
Oh. Okay.
I usually
Okay.
like red
Reimu.
characters.
Yes.
Any character wearing like just you know sporting off the color red, I generally always love.
Ah. Okay. So this is of course Nui Hoju. Uh, I think that's how it is. A mysterious and feared yokai of many years has yet to be defeated by
Hmm.
humans.
I love an
From
OP spirit.
well, they're all eternal yokai. Let me see where is this character from? Toho 12 and 12.5 and 13.
Hmm.
Oh, and
A more modern one.
yes, no wait, yes, 12, yes. Well, there's like 18 modern in that it came out in 2009. um, well, I mean, the first one when did the first what was it like? Probably like 98 or something. Uh,
Probably.
when did
It's an older game.
Yeah, when did highly responsive to prayers come out?
Because
This
I
is
remember seeing the gameplay of like forever ago, and it was like very pixelated. So I know it's an older game.
yes, yeah, yeah. That one was 2000. Highly responsive to prayers was I? Oh, I was so close.
Oh really?
Came out in 97,
Oh, you were close. You were 1 year off.
and it came out in August of 97. So most of pretty close, closer to the beginning of 98 than the beginning of 97. Anyhow,
Mm-hmm.
though it was
Very
first
true.
though it was first shown in '96. Um, I like this is a fun little piece on the Toho wiki. Also, shout out to Toho wiki, which is one of the best wikis because it's not on fandom. It's
Oh,
it is TohoWiki.net. I love to land
wow.
on a wiki that is like not 10,000 ads.
I was about to say it's like actually based off of Wikipedia and not
Yes,
like you said fandom.com.
which is just like subsumed all wikis.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Literally consumed all.
and try to turn wikis into content. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, but the last piece of press article on the highly responsive to prayers that I like, it
Mm-hmm.
just says, for reference, Zune was only 19 years old when he sold this game. He's now 47. Like,
Oh my God.
I wonder if someone updates that every single year. It says so next year on his birthday. It says he's now 48.
48. Yeah. This is the one person's like goal on like at that year they put in the calendar.
Yeah, to go. It's his birthday. Gotta make sure I update that one line on how they respond to the prayers wiki page. But anyway, we're not going to fall down this Toho hole for too long. We're actually going to
Don't
head
worry,
to
I wouldn't
break.
mind. Okay.
Uh, Thank you for joining me here today. Uh, Glad to have
Happy
you.
to be here.
We're going to go on break for now, and we'll be back in approximately 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Goodbye for now. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That is Bobosa with The New Deal. We are here with our next guest, to complete a double header of non-Indiepocalypse related guests from from the games. You may know them from their game Skate and Date, or work on Validate, or I assume Treachery and Beatdown City.
Yes.
Yes, I knew that's a company name. I'm like, did they make another game? I don't think they did. I mean, Sean's made a lot of games, but not under that banner. Geneva Haywood. Geneva, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Glad to have you here on the show. We were mentioning in the break, people who, Amy was saying, someone I've been aware of for a long time. And like, also, that's part of the show is sometimes there are people who do not fall inside of the Indiepocalypse direct orbit of being inside of it. But there is like, I still want to talk to them, and I can't trust that I will have to wait till I go to their city,
Yeah.
And that they will also then go to the event within their city that I am attending.
Yeah, because, there's a lot of cool game dev stuff in the city, but sometimes I'm like, oh, work, or I am just too tired.
Yes, no, I even when I was in New York for Anime NYC, of course, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I can go to Boshi's place. I could not
Right.
I could not go to Boshi's place because I had to work the entire con basically.
Oh, yeah.
how their setup was, which was nice in a way, but because they were in the gaming hall, but means we could not leave until the gaming hall closed, which was like 10 o'clock.
Right.
And that was, but worked for me because people were buying stuff at like 10:03.
Yeah. I didn't get to go, but my little sibling got to go to Anime NYC because I think FlameCon was either the same week or the weekend before, and I was like, I don't have the money for both.
Right. Yes. I can only justify them because I make money at them.
Right.
But we mentioned at the top, if people are unfamiliar with your own personal project, Skate and Date, how would you describe it?
Well, it is a skating and dating game, but not skateboarding. It's roller skating.
Right.
So, to put it simply, it is a roller derby dating sim rhythm game, mainly because I kind of came up with this concept while I was in high school, and I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
And I overscoped because I was a high schooler, but it's getting better to the point of like, oh, hopefully it will be out next year, actually.
Right. You just need to rein in that high schooler.
Oh, absolutely.
And be like, but you don't want to let them down.
Oh yeah. Like I feel like I'm living up to it, but I need to I for some reason when I was 18, I was like, oh, so many cool people are solo devs. I should just do that. And I'm like, well, I like working with people, and
Yes.
I also like sleep.
Right. And you also realize that a lot of them are probably not as solo as you think they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if sometimes it just means they have, the ever invisible partner with a full-time job.
Yeah. I remember like in college I read like Blood, Sweat and Pixels, and I was like, oh. But I also want to apologize in advance because of being in New York. Sometimes there will be very loud cars, and I'll try to mute myself about it.
No, don't worry. The only editing I do on the show is cutting out the music. Otherwise, this is a pretty lax show. I don't I don't worry too much about do we have perfect pristine audio?
Right.
We must not make our entire lives content.
Yeah.
Even though making this a radio show gives you a good excuse to have two people onto a call for an hour and a half or 2 hours. That would be
Mhm.
a strange request otherwise. Just imagine someone's like, "Hey, you want to just be on a call with me for like 2 hours with a couple other strangers?"
I feel like I only do that for like parallel play where I'm just like I need to get work done, but I need to feel like I'm being held accountable.
Right. Yeah, there is definitely like that kind of peer pressure accountability, even if you've made it up yourself and no one is actually peer pressuring you. The idea of how I told someone I have to do this thing, so if they see that I didn't do that, then I have to be held accountable for it,
Yeah.
which is a problem, and it can kind of very easily, you know, get away from you. But you've also done a lot of so is your background primarily one of programming, or like what is your background in game development?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like growing up I wanted to be an animator for a while. So I
Right.
do a lot of art, but in game development I've mainly been doing programming, sometimes a little bit of writing, like art in my solo stuff, like my personal projects, and sometimes music. So I'm wearing all the hats, but a lot of the times when I'm doing like freelance contract stuff, it's mainly programming, which has been nice because it's just like it's like a puzzle. It's like I'm
Yeah.
being like, okay, how do I put all of this together like a nice little puzzle piece?
Right.
And I,
Right. Because it's the thing I always wonder, because usually solo devs wear every hat, and it's like, but of course then well I got to do freelance work off to the side, and it's like
Mhm.
what is your freelance hat? Uh, uh,
Yeah.
so did you come to game making from a background of, oh, no, from animation, of course, right? From animation. Yeah, so you're actually got ahead of me and answered the question for me.
Well, I
Yeah.
mainly got into games because in high school there was a teacher who was like, "Oh, NYU's doing like this little free high school program in games, and it would be good for you." And I was like, I don't know, because I didn't think I would get into it, and then I did, and I was like, "Oh," because I didn't even know how games were made at the time. I was like,
Right.
"Oh, you probably need a lot of money
Yeah.
and like the best computer ever," and it's like, "No, you can just do it in a browser."
Yes. Yes. No. Increasingly, more engines are just like, yeah, either work in a browser or extremely like low intensity,
Hmm.
which because yeah, for a long time, computers, people underestimate that computers are very expensive. uh,
Yeah.
and if you need a big expensive you need like an expensive computer to make games, that's like, oh, that really limits the sort of people you find making games.
Hmm. Yeah, but like it was really nice because I was like, wow, I like got to look at games on itch.io really early on and being like, wow, I can find like just silly little games that people are making for who knows what, and like it's okay, and like, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Right, right. No, that's it's just a giant pile, and I say this very complimentary of games that don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, but they're good.
Yes, yes, I would gladly take. I love let something be as imperfect as possible, as long as I see that like bit of a person inside of it.
Hmm.
That's sort of what I crave more than anything. It's, oh yeah, like I see this person's touch on it. This is something this person clearly wanted to make.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny just because like I finished this game called Super Lesbian Animal RPG recently, or
Yes.
SLARPG for short. And because I like finished it last week, I was like, wow, it's been like I've been following this for almost 10 years and I finally got to like play the full game.
Yeah, that's a whole other like aspect of indie games, which is people go, oh my god, this game, so RPG for short, of course, just came
Hmm.
out. Look at this new indie game. It's like, that indie game took 10 years to make,
Yeah.
uh, and that is Like from the like the consumer audience standpoint, these games just come out as they just kind of come out, and you don't see the 10 years usually
Yeah.
that it took to make them. The 5, 6, 7 average time of people work chipping away something in their spare time during part-time jobs,
Yeah.
or if you get lucky, you get somehow get the money to speed that process up.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Doing grants and all of those type of things.
Yeah, it's a whole like, oh yeah, I can spend 7 years, or I could hire more people, but where do you get the money to hire those people?
Yeah, because I feel like that's another thing. I'm like having my friend do like the CG art in Skate and Date, and that's why I'm like I want to make sure I'm paying them. I'm not having them work for nothing because it's like we're all struggling as it is right now.
Right, right. Or it's like, hey, work for royalties in the next, that'll come out 4 years from now, maybe.
Right.
Right, and you don't know what those are gonna be, and it's yeah, it is. I am in the same camp of adamantly, paying people for work that they do, and no free work here, kind of philosophy.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Because it's more beneficial that way in a lot of ways. Be like, oh yeah, if I've got a little to give you, might as well. Or I usually think of, hey, if I'm making money off of your work, you ought to also be making money off of your work.
Hmm.
Because I don't think residuals are those a thing in the game industry? I
A
don't
good question.
I don't think so generally, right? I don't know.
Yeah, from what I understand so far, I don't think so. I don't think so.
It seems like odd that like I imagine just because it's like the truly cursed industry where it's mostly company based, like
Hmm.
instead of freelancers, but then also you have the job security of a like Hollywood style freelancer.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's real interesting and strange at times.
Right. It's almost as if game development should have guilds agnostic of
Yeah.
companies. Seems handy rather than like every single individual company need to form unions.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I don't fully understand the logistics of all of that. But it seems like it might be handy if that could somehow get worked out.
Yeah, probably just got to get it out into game devs' minds, just like kind of like looking at blue sky and being like, "All right, everyone, guilds? Yes, no."
Right, right. First, step one, someone who knows how they work. How do these things work?
Yeah, because I don't know how they work.
Right. I know it is handy to be like, oh, I'm between jobs, but I still have healthcare, even though those are also like whatever SAG-AFTRA and the WJ are also imperfect,
Hmm.
structures.
Yeah,
But kind of like with games, rather an imperfect structure than none at all.
yeah, absolutely.
Rather than like, oh, I got laid off because our game came out, but it didn't make enough money, but made money, but not enough money.
Yeah, it's like there should still be some sort of safety cushion after doing all of that hard work instead of just being like, "All right, there you go. Good luck."
Yeah,
Um,
at least you stuck around long enough to be in the credits. But see ya.
yeah, man.
That's a whole other like odd thing of. I mean, I bet if I did this last year, I wonder if I could do it this year. Last year I did a thing where I looked at the Game Awards and
Hmm.
and saw how many human beings were nominated for awards. And
Ooh,
I think there were like only the composers and the actors. The rest
yep,
it was all companies
yep,
or games. You know, these things want to be like whatever the Oscars, but none of them uh, say like, oh yeah, this was here's best level designer, best editor, best.
hmm,
It's all very much studios. Here are studios.
yeah. I'm even wondering how that would work, just because, most of the time it is like teams of them.
Right. And I think maybe
But
like because the game industry has like less codified roles
yeah.
in a lot of ways. I almost added to my calendar. Good thing I'm in incognito mode. No, that's not true. Best esports athlete also, and
Oh, right. Right.
content creator of the year. Was that me? Am I the content creator of the year? I best family. What's best family mean?
Oh, isn't it Best Family Game, right?
It probably
I
is, but it just
think.
says best family.
Oh, that's so wow, Best Family in the games industry overall. Wow.
Yeah. Who's doing it the best? Let's see. Best perform. Let's see. I of course yeah. Okay. Don't know a single one of them. I don't.
Yeah, I feel like with those awards, it's like unless I look them up, I don't know them.
No, I'm outside the realm of content creation.
Yeah. Except I think Iron Mouse won last year, I think.
Still couldn't
That
tell
was
you
the
that.
only one. Yeah.
Unfamiliar.
Yeah, it's like I'm like some semi aware of like streamers, but not entirely.
Right. It is a that is like a whole other like industry itself of like it's an odd sort of thing of no, not even best score. Best score does not have best score is just
Wow.
games.
Just games instead of like composers. That is kind of messed up.
Yeah,
Wow.
that is welcome to how the game industry works. I suppose it is.
Yeah.
It is an endless parade of replaceable faceless bodies.
Yeah. And it's like I'm it's very strange being an educator now. Well, not that strange because I've like been an educator for like younger kids a little
Right.
longer, but hoping that the structure of the games industry can change or at least like some type of structure can be made on the East Coast because I don't know why, but the mayor of New York really likes funding games or at least like the mayor's office.
Oh,
It's like I do not like him, but that is the one thing I can say. Like he's putting an effort and being like, "Oh, this gaming pathways program basically to like help students in school if they want to go into the games industry, like get into college and get mentorships and things like that."
yeah. It's that classic Onion headline. The worst guy you know
Yeah.
has a good idea.
Yeah, literally
Some.
because I'm like oof.
Oh, sorry. It's click. Sorry. It's clickhole. My
Oh,
mistake.
it's clickhole, not
Not onion.
I would have thought, but yeah, I don't know. It's like all of these people like they should be treated as people instead of just like all right, here's these teams of hundreds who made a game and are about to get laid off.
Right.
um
And you never knew a single one of them.
yeah, and it's like interesting because like the main reason I like stayed in New York instead of like going to California was because like initially I was like I want to be in an indie studio just because I
Yeah.
feel like being around lots and lots of people every day would overwhelm me, but I understand that like some games just take that many amount of people, like
Right.
they need that many teams.
it's why there's that many people on like TV and movies and all that stuff and music.
Mhm.
Like sometimes it just takes a lot of people to make a big thing quickly.
Yeah.
And there are like I think within the indie space there is like a greater partially because people more uh, make things closer to like by themselves.
Hmm.
But there's also I think a more a culture of knowing each other, and like it's less. We mentioned I mentioned Boschi's place up at the top in New
Yeah.
York, and there is there's an awareness of these people there are local communities throughout the
Yeah.
world. Usually located in larger cities, but that's also
Hmm.
why I think like indie devs, like hobbyist devs, like have the longest longevity in games
Yeah.
because
It's
you
just because of like pacing and everything too.
right. It's not like uh, I'm gonna make one project, and then if it doesn't succeed, then I disappear forever.
Yeah,
I,
exactly.
I go back to my programming job somewhere else, and I'm done with
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, and I mean that still unfortunately happens just because like people burning out. Like I
Yeah.
remember there's this one there was like some tweet I saw years ago about like just the burnout rate of people, like it being like 5 years or something like that. And I was like, oh, because like I did get burnt out like around the start of the pandemic,
Right.
where I was just like, woo, I just need to like take time to rest. And it was funny because when I was working on like the Treachery and Beatdown City DLC, that was when I finally rested. I was like, all right, I know my hours. Once like it's outside of my work hours, I'm closing all my work stuff and I'm
Right.
like
Right.
literally taking that time for myself finally.
There's nothing more beneficial than like having a job where they ask you, "Are you gonna?" They go, "Do you have Teams on your phone?" I go, "No," because if I'm not clocked in, you don't need to know I exist.
Yep.
If I am there's nothing more beneficial than a time a job with a time clock.
Yeah, or just like being able to set like strong boundaries at a job,
Right.
because like I feel like that's just my main thing now. I'm like, if I'm going to be working somewhere, you should not be telling me to do work on my off hours. I'm just
Right.
not doing that. Mm-mm.
No, I will gladly leave a job unfinished because you know what, it'll be there tomorrow.
Exactly. That's the nicest thing about it. Instead of being like, because I feel like I had this problem early on where I'd be like trying to fix a bug and I'd be like, I need to fix this before I stop work for the day. And it's like, no, no, I can finish it on Monday, and I probably will do it better on Monday because I had a good night's sleep. And a lot of the times, it's just that getting sleep where I'm like, oh, it's just this like little thing I didn't think about because I
Right.
was tired.
Yes. Sometimes you just need like space away from it for your brain to compute it when you sleep and go,
Yeah,
solve the problems there. No,
yeah,
I very deliberately don't do any work on the weekends, um, or like 2 hours before I go to sleep. Even
hmm.
it's my anti burnout strategy.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. Um, I've been trying to like figure out my schedule because I actually teach on Saturdays, and
Oh,
because
okay.
it's the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm not today, and all the kids don't have to wake up in the morning. Neither do I.
Right. Yes.
um, but so it's like I'm trying to reconfigure just like how I rest and when I do like game dev stuff, because I'm like, all right, I haven't like submitted to Yuri Jam in years, and I want to make something like small just to
Yeah.
like get my creative juices flowing. Um, and figuring out how to be like, all right, I'm not working, I'm working is has been hard. But I've been using there's this like sort of game, not really, called like Spirit City Lo-Fi Sessions by like
Okay.
the Lo-Fi City girl. And it's very cute. And then like they have like a whole like Pomodoro timer where they do like the, work 15 minutes, take a break for 5 minutes. And that's mainly been helping me get through this year.
Right.
Being like, oh, I have my cute like little wallpaper screensaver thing that has a timer and like my to-do lists that I can manage all in one spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you just need like that thing to help you get there. Uh, like like it's hard to quit. It's one of those things where it can be hard to quit anything just immediately. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's something you just need to slowly. You're easing yourself off of workaholism. In this
Yeah.
in this way. But it's important because that's if you get burnt out, then your stuff never gets finished, and that's like
Yeah.
worse than games having to take 7 to 10 years to make is them taking 7 to 10 years and then just never getting done because the person got too burned out.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks, but like I don't know. Like hopefully it will happen less with more people just like talking about burnout, and like because I feel like that's what helped a lot. Like learning about burnout and being like, oh, I should probably take a break.
Right.
Like I used to watch, oh my gosh, yeah, I used to watch like GDC videos like every almost every day. Just being like, I need to become a better game developer, blah 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 blah. And I've taken like a long break from just like kind of being in this mindset of like, oh, I need to be constantly improving every day, when it's like I can improve a little bit, and I can also just create for myself without it having to be like an improvement, right?
Right, right. It's kind of like the problem you run into with the internet is that it's so easy to see everyone at their best,
Yep.
and try to compare yourself not to like a single person, but it's like I need to be able to run as fast as this person, jump as high as this person, do math as well as this person. You need like you try to like chimera yourself to be the best of each individual trait that you handpick from like 7 different people.
Hmm.
And then you just kind of just burden yourself with these wholly unreal expectations until you
Yeah.
give up because you'll never meet them.
Yeah, because that's kind of how I was with art for a while, where I'm just like, oh, it's so hard to like do coloring or shading or this, and that. And I feel like I've been kind of making myself be like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy art and I'm going to draw for myself. And I can have my own goals, but it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to be the best. I have to be like this. It's like I should be inspired and feel like happy seeing nice art instead of feeling bad.
Right, right. Because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I want to make this thing, and then I have to publish it online. Each time I
Hmm.
make an art piece, I have to publish it. Oh, I didn't get enough.
Right.
Am I being shadow banned? Am I?
Yeah. Oh
Or
my
am
gosh.
I? Or whatever excuse you need to make up for yourself
Hmm.
to kind of like then you create this whole other coping cycle. It's just social media. It did a real number on humanity. Uh,
Absolutely. Like, especially on, I keep thinking about this, just like for like young kids and teens, like who are like making art or just posting online. And I'm like, why are there no more like kind of kid centered spaces?
right.
Like, it, like, I can sort of say Roblox, but Roblox is so like kind of predatory in some of its ways of existing. That makes
Yes.
me upset.
Right. Right. It's the to not be too old. I had I grew up around similar like game modding tools or whatever, but
Hmm.
they were not monetized by the publisher.
Exactly.
Like Blizzard wasn't making money off of my StarCraft maps, or
Hmm.
anyone's for that matter, outside of like implicitly where you want to buy it to play it kind of thing.
Right, right.
But now that everything is like, it's the eternal content cycle. Nothing you do in your life is not being monetized by somebody else. And
Yeah.
at some point, something in my brain broke, and then like I cannot like see like videos or pictures and not think, why was somebody filming that? Somebody was filming that. Somebody was taking that picture.
Hmm.
Like where I feel like there's supposed to be the suspension of disbelief of, oh, this is just like a movie. The camera person is
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah.
But then it makes you like, wait, why are you doing this? Why did you need to do anyway?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like everything feels so complicated because there's this like inherent need to share all the time, like
Right.
online. And it's like I don't know. It's like sometimes it's like, oh, I want to share because I want to share to my friends, but it's like, how can I do it with just my friends without like companies taking my data and blah 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 blah.
Right. It it's one of the things I think about sometimes when like people's like implicit need to like feel like they have to share or something.
Hmm.
Like I think about um, when people kind of got sort of very defensive about wanting to play that Hogwarts game.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
you could just play it 8 hours a day and literally tell nobody. Like,
Yeah, like why are you letting us know if you know you're just gonna get heat for it? Like,
right? It's just the odd thing of like, sure, right? Jk, it's a terrible person. You shouldn't
yep.
be given her any of your money, but also you don't. If you feel like you need to, you don't need to tell literally anybody that you are. It's
Exactly.
it's really odd of like the idea of people are like, oh no, I must be online. I must be.
Yeah.
I must defend my choices, which is like this whole weird thing, and that it extends beyond that entirely into kind of everything. Of
Hmm.
that's just the quickest example of people telling on themselves for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Ay, ay, ay.
But that all aside, speaking of dense and immovable things, Geneva, what's your favorite type of rock?
Um, Favorite type of rock. I feel like I don't really know rock types, but I feel like my favorite types of rocks are the ones I find on the beach because they're
Okay,
like colorful and they're smooth and they're also not really large. So it's like a nice little pebble that I can like place somewhere or like do something with. So those, I think those would kind of be my favorite type of rock.
perfect. And now it is a common type of favorite rock on the show
Mm.
among like myself rock novices. We are like, yeah, that's a good type. Now,
Yeah.
follow up. Do you have a favorite Toho character?
Um, Well, I haven't. Wait, no, I have tried playing the Toho games, but I'm very, very bad at them. And I don't really know the characters, but I know the songs because they're in so many rhythm games that I
Yes.
play. Um, so because I really enjoy the song, like Marissa stole the Precious Something, I'm gonna go with her.
Okay,
I think,
perfect. Yes.
yeah.
Now I, you know, Bad Apple is a song you set your watch to. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
if you don't, if you're like, I need to equate myself with this new giant rhythm arcade game, I will just play Bad Apple because they all have Bad Apple on them.
exactly. And it's like just it's the nice default. Like I'm practicing and figuring out how this works.
What is this giant washing machine? Um, and what buttons do I press? I pl-
All of them.
yes. Turns out there. I figure out the one that's called the one that is just like a
Like
giant
a circle. Yeah.
that you like
I don't
you swirl
remember.
around. I
Yeah.
really like that one.
Hmm.
I went to a bunch in Austin
Oh, nice.
with a friend of the show when I happened to be in Austin, but I do
Hmm.
not have any of those nearby me. Uh,
Yeah. No, there's there was a new arcade that opened up, but it is far from me. So it's like I want to go back to like play all the rhythm games because I have a lot, but I'm also like that trip is gonna
yes,
make me exhausted.
right now I can only imagine. Uh, but Jima, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to. We're going to go on one more break before we head back to our group segment. But until then, I'll see you all on the other half of 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Goodbye for now.
Influenced by new wave band Devo and historically referred to as Devo Core.
Ooh,
Kifo core.
you're
Okay.
welcome back. You're hearing a little bit of our discussion of egg punk, our definition of egg punk, which the previous band, of course. Oh, now here's the thing. I was ready to say this 2 weeks ago, or last week, but then a guest was not here, so I did not play it. And then we did have a group segment, so I only played one song last week. So bear with me when I say Mizierja, and that was Grodzki Shivotvi. Forgive my mispronunciation of a Croatian band, but they're cool. Um, hello, Geneva and Amy. We're both here. Are both here together. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
We are discussing uh, briefly egg punk, or just I was mentioning also peace punk and Zadar. Zadar, maybe I wonder if that's a more like a Croatian sort of thing or a specific to them sort of thing. But anyway, we're here with the whole crew. How I know my usual intro of how are you doing? I'm like, wait, I already asked both of you that. I don't need to know how you're doing anymore. But games,
Well,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
games.
Games.
I can first say and just like I
Yeah.
actually was super excited when I first found out, actually, Geneva, about your game Skate and Date, because I had a huge fixation about getting into and doing derbies, like roller derby myself.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I
Yeah.
I have not done roller derby, which is bananas. I love roller derby, but also I like I'm like I don't have enough time. B, I don't think I'm a good enough skater yet. And C, and it's bad that after all of these years I still haven't thought of one. I'm like I haven't thought of a derby name for myself. Like people have asked me when I like showed
Oh,
this game, and I'm like I don't know. I can't stick on one yet.
I haven't even thought about that, like getting a like internal like title, like
Yeah.
getting ready.
I'm
Well,
like,
it's funny because I was talking about roller derby recently with like a new coworker I have,
oh
and she asked
wow.
me if I had ever watched the movie Whip It, which is from like 2009.
Yeah,
Is this something that you know? Oh, okay, so
I have
like I
not
didn't
watched it,
know.
but I've seen clips.
Feels like we both could look into it because I
Yeah.
also like I grew up roller skating a lot, like
Hmm.
in rinks and like a lot of safe areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely same.
Yeah, yeah. But there is something so exciting about like the aggressive, at least for me, there's a lot
Hmm.
of excitement about the aggressive play of roller derby just because
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's kind of chaotic of a game of like a sport.
Yeah, oh my goodness. It was really funny because I have been using my library card like a lot this year, and I'm
Oh, I love
trying
library.
to remember this book. I'm gonna like find it real quick. But I read this like I guess it was like kind of like a YA graphic novel, but it was about vampires who do roller derby. It was
What?
very interesting. Yeah, I oh my goodness. I need to find
Is it
my
called Blood City Rollers?
yes, that one.
Okay, this is
Yeah.
via Googling.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't know, let me look through my story graph list.
My gosh. I really do like how roller derby is kind of like kind of like a up like it's kind of a well kept up niche. Like
Hmm.
it's still pretty contemporary, even though for however old the sport is.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's like there's still a lot of matches that happen out here. I haven't been to any this season, but I'm trying to remember. Recently started being in a new D&D group, and one of
Mm.
the people in the D&D group is actually one of like the cheerleaders like the for Gotham Roller Derby, which I was like, "Oh my god,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
I didn't even know." And we just like started playing like probably like a month or two ago doing one shots.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But
Honestly, on the similar note about one shots, when you guys were talking about being part of like game jams and just like doing something small and short, I actually like also been craving that with one shots.
ooh, yeah, I have so many one shots that I'm like, well, not so many one shots, but I have so many like indie TTRPGs that I want to like try. Like, oh, I like kickstarted like backed the Extreme Meat Punks Forever TTRPG. And so I have the book, and I'm like, I want to run this. I want to do a one shot with my friends where we're in meat suits beating up fascists, but I've
Love
never like
that.
DM'd for like I've never DM'd seriously. I've DM'd for like activities with young children because I think it's fun to like be like, this is what role playing is like and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Um, but I wanna like actually try doing that at some point, doing like a tiny little one shot because they're fun. And especially like because you don't have to be like, all right, we have to keep figuring out when to meet for this year long D&D session.
Oh my gosh,
Right?
exciting.
Because it can, uh, it can become like a kind of almost like a job in and of itself. Of we need to make sure we keep up on this forever.
Yeah, because oh my goodness, the last time I did a D&D session with like my college friends, when I was looking at the notes, I was like, "Oh, the last time we did this was like April last year."
Hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Yeah, and there is like the indie TTRPG space is thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
There's
so many good ones.
and so many like like single page stuff, so much stuff like
Mhm.
designed for one shots, just like being put out like constantly.
Yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
also really like the solo journaling, like
Yeah,
TTRPG type stuff. Like I think that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
yeah, it's one of those things that like does not like is not a thing that I do, that does
Hmm.
not work for me, but it's a very interesting space that I'm like, oh, this is very cool, even though I will I will not ever probably do that. Oh yes, I am.
Ooh.
Oh no! Did I just get a virus? Was I given a?
What?
Oh
Oh
no!
no.
A virus? No, I
What
know. I
happened?
know. This is. Yeah,
Oh
this
no,
is for. Oh god. And
oh, this looks so silly.
yes, I think if you go to the Grant Howard's page, where your dear listener, you do not see what is inside of our private Discord chat. But I think Grant Howard also has like some very classic like. Some of the stuff might even be like on a napkin. I think, like
Oh
truly,
Yeah.
wow.
like true napkin games. Um,
Mm.
but it's also like the space is like very playful of like playful with like the design and like how things get laid out as well. And then there's infinite space for people to just be like, oh, I made up a game, real quick. Does it work? Because also the secret benefit of TTRPGs is if it doesn't work, you just fix it at the table.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You just be like,
Fix it on the
oh,
job.
right, like, oh, this number's too high. Let's make it lower. Uh, Rather than like a video game, it's like, oh, this character's imbalanced. Well, there's nothing I can do about it.
You kind of just let it crash and burn.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Have either of you tried tabletop design at all?
Actually, I haven't, and I feel like I might try getting into it at some point,
Right.
but like I've been like kind of trying to work on like my writing skills a bit just because I'm like I like world building, but I'm like, do I know how to world build? Not as much as I want to. And I feel
Right.
like if I do like a small TTRPG, I would want it to feel like very lived in a way.
Yeah, yeah. And like the benefit is like you can usually do like a lot of like hacks of like existing engines.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Save yourself the trouble of like, well, how do I make you roll dice or draw cards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, you know how to do it this way, but here's like my flavor I've built on top of it.
Yeah.
Amy, have you ever
Yeah,
done
I've
any?
only
Yeah.
done. Yeah. No, it's exactly what you were just mentioning. Like, I've actually done, or like exercises, like a hack of a previous game or something like that.
Mm.
And I think I did make sorry, this link doesn't really make any sense. But like it was a fun exercise of like taking BS the game, but
Oh.
then kind of merging it with memory the game.
Okay.
And then my colleague and I, we called it or my classmate and I, we called it gaslighting the game
Yeah.
because you're BSing memory.
Right, right. Yes. No,
It's great.
I like that idea, the conceptually of just like truly gaslighting an opponent a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I've done a couple of those and I've really enjoyed them. And I think I did do an attempt of it. I call it attempt because it never was play tested. It
Right.
Hmm.
was truly like an exercise for me of
Hmm.
making a TTRPG, like a solo journaling TTRPG.
Right.
Um, mm,
But there is like yeah, there's as artists, both of you, there is you don't show every single person every single sketch you ever do.
mhm.
Yeah.
and there's a strength to like,
That's
oh,
exactly it.
I made a kind of partial little game or something that I just don't have to show anybody. But like
Exactly.
I flexed some muscle, or I thought about some idea. I got some ideas out, even though they never quite materialized into a full game
Yeah.
or even like a prototype. But you can it's still beneficial, like to get those ideas out of your body.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, for sure. I feel like with so many game jam, like earlier this year, for some reason, I was like, I'm gonna do so many game jams so I can really get into like working on games again.
Right.
And all I have is a lot of half finished ideas or some prototypes, which I was really happy with. So it's like I did learn stuff, but I'm like, I don't need to share this.
Right. But people will see like the end result of that in other places. But
Hmm.
not every you don't need to post every single little cube you draw.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can keep those to yourself. And that's the other part that gets hidden a lot of like when you see people online, you don't see all of the work that you just never show anybody. So people just emerge fully formed artists out of nowhere, and then you're like, can't I work? Why can't I draw like that? And it's like, well, you didn't see all the other drawing they did before then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did not decide to suddenly pick up a pen one day and become a master artist.
That reminds me of the I don't know if it's a common practice, but I've definitely heard the common tip of like you have your showcase sketchbook and then you have your sketchbook.
Right.
Ooh,
Where
yeah, I've
if people
heard
are
of
like, "Can I
that.
look through your sketchbook?" You show the nicer sketchbook, and then you just keep your half baked like doodles sketchbook to yourself and never show it the light of day.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I've just like I don't want to have to go back and forth. So it's like I can flip to certain pages and then leave little warnings on pages before being like, I'm not showing this to anyone. Beware.
Right.
Hmm.
Instead of having
I
your
actually love those
Yeah.
instead of
because I
have
like finding old sticky notes and like
Yeah.
comments. Mhm.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I'm like teaching an art class to like middle schoolers at the moment. And so I decided I was like, let me bring in like my sketchbooks from like when I was like 14, 15 or whatever. And it's really interesting like flipping through them and being like, oh, some of these are actually not that bad. And I was just being hard on myself.
Hmm.
right. Or sometimes you're like, oh, I see where I lack technical skill or something, but like all
Oh,
the ideas are
absolutely.
there,
Yeah.
and you just couldn't
Like
like make the lines go the way you wanted them to.
yeah, I could
Hmm.
also see I was very obsessed with the blending stump because I'm like, oh my goodness, just like stained shading everywhere.
Right. Or
I feel that way with comics.
Mm,
Like I think sometimes a lot like the way that we're talking about like how you might not have the technique, but you see the vision, you see the message or like the main energies
yeah.
of
hmm.
the piece. I feel that with comics just because it's comics require a lot of an artist to do,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
Like comic animation are, in my opinion, kind of the hardest visual mediums to do.
Yes, that's why I think that's probably the biggest reason why when I was younger I was like, I don't think I want to do animation because then I have to do X, Y, and Z. And if I do games, it's not as bad
Right.
because if I get bored, I'll switch what I'm doing.
I have to draw these.
Hmm.
I have to draw this three things and not 30,000 things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then oh my goodness, like all the storyboarding. Oh, storyboard like I like storyboarding, but also like I have to like really get what's in my brain onto a paper and that takes so long. And like I'm glad I've gotten over the oh man, should I really be like using like references online? Am I just copying? No, no, I'm not copying. It's like it's important.
Right.
I find comic artists so impressive because in a similar vein, they have to just like they have to keep drawing a scene like 10 times
over
the
and
page.
over and getting the
Yeah, like
specific angles and everything. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
because it's like unlike animation where like the background is like its own layer and then you like
Yeah.
draw on top of it. It's like no, they just keep having to do it like a personal torture like like
Yeah,
experience.
no, when I was younger, I was lazy though and did just like put the background layer and just was like, I'm just gonna like scooch it for a different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Digital art has made that process so much faster.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. It has been like a huge, also just like that you can undo, saves
Oh,
you
Yeah,
absolutely.
infinite time.
yeah.
And like zooming in, because like anytime I like find myself like getting too close to my computer screen, I'm like, oh, I can zoom in. I don't need to like squint and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
You can get way deep in there. I did want something that like feels broken. I didn't realize you could, like, you know how sometimes you take a tiny image and blow it up and it looks bad. Of course, classic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just scrolled, I zoomed in and then screenshotted my computer and it works, and it feels like it shouldn't work. It feels it feels like there's something wrong there, like I cheated somehow.
Hmm.
Right.
Because I'm like, why can't GIMP just do this if I can do it like this?
Right.
But like there's so many weird like technical, right, because digital also opens up another whole suite of other weird technical things, of like, oh, now that I can undo infinitely, uh, I will just draw the same thing forever
Hmm.
until it's perfect, rather than like, oh, I put ink on there. There's nothing I can do about it. I guess I could white it out, but
Yeah.
you can only white out so many times.
Yeah. Or like
Hmm.
putting like a little post-it to be like, all right, this is how I fix it.
Right. Eventually, you just gotta be like, oh well, I guess it's done. Go straight to ink style, I just drew it with a pen. Nothing I can do about it.
Hmm.
There is. I think about that kind of like uh, straight to ink philosophy sometimes in making something where it's like the first time I did, I'm not going to fix too much of it. Basically, the first time I did it is just what it is. Even if I
Hmm.
could, in theory, go back and touch it up forever. Just
Yeah.
as a way of like, can't work on this thing forever.
Yeah. Like I feel
Totally.
like I've been like practicing in my sketchbook, just being like, I'm gonna use pen, and if I mess it up, I'll feel a little upset about it, but it's okay.
Right, right.
Like, especially because there are ways to like kind of fix things where I'm
Yeah,
just like, oh, I'm just gonna make it like a shaded background so that whatever is like I want to kind of get out is now just a shading, like a
right.
shadow.
And it's also, it's a sketchbook. It's not like you're not
Yeah.
you're not doing like the like TikTok version of a fake sketchbook where you like, wow, this person's
Oh my
sketch is
gosh.
perfect.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That makes me really just think about like the amount of like kids like getting ready for like whatever school and they're like, here's the portfolio that got me into the school. And it's like,
Oh my gosh.
oh my goodness. I used to watch so many of those. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
As to say, yeah, the YouTube library of just portfolios that are accepted.
Yeah.
yeah, it's right. It builds up like kind of these infinitely unreal expectations for people, and then they burn out before they even get into college. Because
Yeah.
True.
it's like, what, you haven't got your first mill by the time you're 17 yet. What are you doing? You're not even part of an influencer house.
The
Right.
influencer house.
Are you even living your
Right.
life?
What really frustrates me about like the whole content creation thing is because like I did a few TikToks just to be like, I want to talk about games I like because I think that's the main thing I like sharing is being like I want to like word of mouth share like stuff that people made.
Yeah.
But it takes so much time. And then also it's being like, should I care about views? Will I care about followers? And like I don't really, but it's still like a thing that is always there.
Hmm. Kind
Yeah.
of like just staring back at you.
Yeah.
Right. It's you like, oh, I don't care about it, but I could just check real quick to see how it's
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And then
Like
you're like, oh wait, why is it doing well?
that too, where it's just like I'm just gonna ignore it and let it go for now.
It's like,
Mm.
oh, did I do it wrong? Well, maybe I'll try it again next time. Or like, oh, what did this person do?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like what's actually nice sometimes, well, not even about sharing, but just like making stuff, like going back to like being able to go back and see like notes or even like little things that work. Because I remember I like found some old RPG Maker files I made, and I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. Like I feel like combat wise, still needs some work, but like the progression can like feel pretty good and being like,
Hmm.
you know what, yeah, I am improving and things can like be good even if it is also bad.
Right, right. There's plenty of space to be like, oh, I like parts of this thing, but you know, not all of it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's too much. Easily, it's too easily built around like uh, success metrics. You know, of like,
Hmm.
why isn't my thing the big successful indie game or whatever that came out this year?
Hmm. I mean, I think what's also nice is like there's always probably going to be like that one person who's like, this is like my favorite thing ever and people need to learn about it.
Right.
uh, Like I've been playing this game called Sovereignty by Three Halves Tea, and it's like this cool like strategy game, kind of Fire Emblem esque, but not really. Um, but I'm like, not many people have played it, but I enjoy it a lot. Especially like the art and also just like the plot so far is kind of making me go, oh my goodness, political wars and all of that stuff because it's basically just like tea princesses versus a coffee empire. um,
Mm.
but I
Oh,
don't know. Like,
I was trying to find it, and I was
oh
searching.
yeah, let me find it.
No, I got it. I got it because
Oh, you got it? Okay.
I missed that as a pun.
Yeah, it's a fun. Yeah.
Yeah, let me because you know I am uh I live within the world of I love this game that nobody has played. You know
Yeah, yeah.
that's my bread and butter. Um, or that's just like that's generally you know the same thing with like when I play music sometimes sometimes not all the time
Hmm.
a lot of it's like hey also the same thing of like people don't know what this is but also
Yeah.
why I'm making you check it out. uh, Trying to like more people need to be that like annoying friend that talks about the things that nobody else talks about
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because it can
I
be
feel like, oops, sorry.
no go ahead.
I was gonna be like, I feel like that kind of like I know a lot of people like stream Balatro, but I feel like that's what happened with Balatro and my friend group being like, y'all should really get into Balatro. And I'm like, I don't know what it's about. And it's really funny because my friend like I guess like lied to me because I'm like, this is not what this game is about. Because I really like this Game Freak game called Pocket Card Jockey, which is like solitaire but horse racing. So my
Okay.
friend said Balatro is like solitaire. And it is not like solitaire, but I do like it. But
Right.
I feel like doing silly things like that, being like, I will get my friend to get to try this game by connecting it to something they like, just a little.
Right, because it's tricky
Wait,
with games because you can't be like hey we're taking a car ride I'm going to put on this album or
Oh yeah,
come over we're going to listen to
oh my gosh, yeah.
we're going to watch a movie. You can't be like okay just come over to my house you're going to play an 8 hour game.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Oh
have to
man,
kind of like it's harder to make those sort of like out of the norm sort of recommendations to people
yeah,
Mm.
of
An
like
investment.
yes right
yeah.
right
True.
it takes people a lot of time of like do you have like a do either of you have sort of like a go-to like oh man I really wish this is the game I want to share with people the most.
Ooh.
Yes. Um, I have it because You know how itch you can do like collections of games to like recommend
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
I always loved uh there's two games that I always love that are like I guess there's three. There's two indie games that are made by like one or two people that I was
Hmm.
very like kind of blown away by how simple of the game was. One's called Novena and it's by
Yes.
Cecile Richard. Yes,
Oh,
that's
yeah, I've played
a
that
Bitsy
one.
game.
Yep.
Okay, I'm glad we're all on the same page. That game I
That.
really love recommending people about like
Yes.
how Bitsy can be very uh uh very heavy hitting, even if the game is like not a heavy like engine or a heavy mechanic. I think that's like really impressive to
Yes. No.
do.
I reached
Yeah.
Um,
out to Seal Richard for it's in issue 9. You know,
Oh,
oh yeah,
wow,
because I
nice.
reached. I'll reach out to usually a couple people every month or so. So yeah. No, I'm like yes, Novena. Yes, keep going.
yeah, no, yeah, like Novena is just one of those that like for me just like was the one that touched me just because it was just the first work that they've like that I came across. Like
Right.
all of their other work is also as amazing, but that one was
Mm.
just the one I first encountered and was just like blown away with.
Yes.
And then I also really liked Reba by NB Machine.
Reba.
Let me tell you about.
Riba.
Yes.
It's by Ivan Papiol.
Papinol. Yeah.
I always
Yes.
this game I also really love just because it's a very again a simple game, but like it just like kind of blows me away. I mean, obviously visually it blows me away, but
Hmm.
it's also a like a very cohesive ambient game of like the audio is ambient and like the narrative is like not very like hard to read. It's just a very great immersive game that I've always been impressed by. And then the only like larger game that I've always been impressed by is Mood is the Own. But that's like a longer game with a larger team and like
Yeah.
like it is just a really good, well like impressive game. But the
Hmm.
other two are just like was impressive whenever I tell people about like indie games. I'm like, no, like there are people who are just like making these small experiences that like touch you in a way
Yes.
that
Right,
um
right.
No, I
very
remember
impressive.
um, playing Button multiple times at home.
Mm,
B that is B dot spelled out Button REP Decoute Fabrique or like kind of soft REP, right? Because aren't they like there's
hmm.
one person left. We kind of do work maybe. The company kind of still exists. Um,
Kind of,
sort of,
hopefully,
but
Yeah.
praying.
oh god, Button was 2010. Have
Oh
either
my
of you ever
gosh.
played Button?
I don't
I
think I
don't think
have.
so. I'm trying to find it.
It is
It's
like
this, right?
it doesn't have a wiki page. It is like their first credited entry on their wiki. Um, but it's like it was like an Xbox Live. Yes, that's the one. It was
Oh,
like
okay.
it was like an Xbox Live like indie game, I believe. Um,
Oh,
but it's kind of like if I remember correctly, you like put a controller on the ground, and it's just sort of it's like this kind of game outside of a game,
Hmm.
huh.
that uses game controllers. Like you're supposed to do things and then wrestle over controllers after you do like an action. To where you'll each have a button. It's like, okay, well I did this action, then you go press your button after you've completed it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, very cool. And also, Reba, gotta say, issue 15 of Indiepocalypse.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Uh,
so
yeah,
true.
that is like, and they also worked on Pan. Pan was in what was Pan? Pan was in 54, I think, which is another like super cool game,
Yeah.
which is just kind of
I think
like
also just like that team is a very like insane team.
right, like that kind
I'm
of
gonna
like
have to
it's like a
see.
loose like like they different people work like Dobra Studios.
Hmm.
Is like a different mixture, and it's the cool thing you see about like indie bands, of like, a bunch of people kind of working in different, like, you know, three people work on this game together, then three different people work on this game together with one person overlapping, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
just a bunch of different people like casually working, you know, that's kind of like, you know, to bring it back to Steel Richard and Domino Club, you know, which is
Mm-hmm.
all, you know, very like casually kind of working together, but not always working together, but working together, you know,
Yeah.
and making very cool stuff. But there's like a lot of those now,
Yeah.
like, you know, like Paradise and like Litho Breakers and
Mm-hmm.
Big Bag. I think RIP to Big Bag. I think Big Bag ended recently, maybe, or
Oh,
Oh.
did it
stopped
end? Dang.
or stopped working. I can't remember. Or maybe Big Bag's still doing fine. I don't remember. But there's a lot of like collectives out there,
Mm-hmm.
of all kind of just like hobbyists, or you know, people in different levels of like, you know, commercial careers within game devs or not in game dev. All just kind of like, hey, what if we kind of made games together?
Right, right. Um, Man, I'm
And it's
trying
where
to
you
think.
find a lot of like the coolest kind of games.
Yeah, like whatchamacallit? I'm thinking about the studio that made Cosmic Sister Wheel, Cosmic Sisterhood Wheel. Like I haven't played that game. I haven't
Yes.
gotten to play that game yet, but I've played all of the other games that that collective has
Uh-huh.
made. And I think all of their work is really cool. Like especially this year, I played through. Shoot, I'm trying to remember. I'm going to find
The
this.
team is called Deconstruct Team,
Yeah,
right?
Deconstruct
Okay.
Team.
Also
Um,
includes Ivan Papules on that team.
yeah, that's why I was like, that name looks familiar.
Yes. Uh,
But I, oops,
the,
sorry.
the other big game is Red Strings Club, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I recently played this year Essays on Empathy, which is like they're like a lot of different like game jams and prototypes they worked on
Yeah.
in a collection, which was really cool to go through.
Yeah, there is like so much more space in like that's kind of like you know, Haunted PS1 works in this space of
Hmm.
just like
Mm-hmm.
people working together around like a different, because it's harder for um what's it called, a like scenes to develop in games maybe in the same way, because it's not like the kind of public performance that you would find in like theater or music. um so you don't necessarily are always seeing your peers working, or like seeing your peers work all the time, like your
Hmm.
geographic peers, that is.
Yeah.
So they kind of pop up in these like digital spaces around these like aesthetics sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And you come across, yeah, like these different cool like looser companies or different teams, or people who aren't like, also, you know, teams that don't require people to only make stuff for the company, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I've contacted people before about commissions, and they're like, oh no, I work at a company,
Oh,
so I cannot, you know, do commission games,
oh,
because, you know, it's like the company owns your work.
no, boo. Yeah.
And so it
Fortunate.
kind of, it require, yeah, it's this whole like nightmarish sort of, you know, being cut loose at any point, but also don't forget, everything you make on your spare time belongs to us or something.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really
I don't know.
a weird space.
Yeah, because I feel like it's so good to like again just be able to make little things for yourself and things like that.
Right.
Um, like I thought it was really interesting. There's this visual novel studio called Studio Elon,
Yep.
or or yeah, that recently I guess did a like internal game jam, and so like different people like made different games. I mean, I haven't played all of them, but I did play On Wings, Bringing Sleep, and that was very That was very nice. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the visual novel space is also like this huge space that exists like outside of, you know, video game culture in a lot of
Mhm.
ways,
Hmm.
where this it's touched upon in the very good. Oh no, I'm going to forget. You know, March 31st. If you played March 31st,
Mm.
um,
That sounds really familiar. Oh my gosh.
now I've only got now because it's there. I've only got Studio Elon on the brain, so I'm looking it up real quick. Um, but it is like it's another a group that works together, and let me pull up the name very quickly. Um,
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of the.
Professor Lily or Prof Lily.
Oh,
Oh.
It's 31st March midnight, and you know it is about you know visual novels as parody, you know, as they're
Mhm.
seen in like
oh,
as they are seen, you know, the classic. Oh, here's April Fool's joke. What if we made a visual novel because those are funny, and not real games.
Yeah.
right.
Um, and it is very much within that space. It's very good. Highly, you know, it's also made up of a bunch of also very like talented people. All these like if you spend time just like going into itch and like looking at people who make games and looking at people who are on teams, you just see like it spirals into just like there without ever even like going on to Steam, there's an infinite number of people making very cool games.
Yeah.
Mm.
And not even like you're like, oh well, I'm sacrificing something by not going to these mainstream spaces. Like you're not really missing anything, I think either.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. Um, what's going on here? Oh, okay. There's a rare message in the Indiepocalypse Discord. So I was like, oh, do I need to deal with that?
Uh,
Oh, right. There's
Very
also
rarely
like
do people. Very rarely do people. No, it's just someone talking about their work, which is nice. Yes.
oh yeah, I was gonna say I like a lot of NPC Casey's work.
yeah, and like their visual novels are so like um I'm trying to find the phrase for this, but like the word I'm looking for is kind of between nostalgic and like core memory in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
No, I get
I don't
that.
know how, and it's not the word like wholesome. I don't think their games are wholesome necessarily, but like
Right.
me, a lot of NPC because also like Casey also makes like adult themed
Yeah.
and like sexual content, but
Yeah.
like to me, it's like the way they do their narratives or like even the way they like depict those scenes and like the character interactions to me is like very like coming of age narration that
Hmm.
I've like always grown up like YA writing style and like
Yeah.
how I remember loving stories. It's like I love stories that kind of like get there and like they're not super like the characters aren't like overly detailed, but I can't like fill in some of the blanks myself and like
Mhm.
it's kind of the pacing that kind of takes me through the entire experience rather than like I don't know some ornate detail bringing me through.
Hmm. No, yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I haven't gotten to play Casey's more recent games, but I'm pretty sure, I played a Letter of Challenge and the One Night Hot Springs games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another similarly, very prolific developer, and survives for a long time working within like the indie space. You know. Yeah, and they just put out a new game like 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
I
Like
think
Baron's
so.
Day, like just came out. I forget when exactly.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
Well, this
It
is
did
so
just come
cute.
out.
yeah,
Yeah,
They
two
just
days
announced it
ago.
how it's going to be on Game Boy, like the physical
Yeah,
cartridge.
and
yeah.
they believe they already sold out of all those physical cartridges.
Wow.
Wow.
But you get a Game Boy ROM, because it's a Game Boy game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you can if you want to flash your own cart, You can flash your own card; it'll run on a Game Boy. It's been
Really?
exciting to see so much like Game Boy development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been so excited about just the Game Boy engine in general, and I haven't gotten to mess around with it, but I'm excited what everything I'm seeing what people make.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like, yes, the limitation breeds creativity kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like I can only work with with the scope of a Game Boy game. Is like, well, what does a Game Boy game look like? What can I do within the scope of a Game Boy game? And yeah, it's exciting to see a lot of people just continually, partially because I just want the idea of retro to die.
Hmm.
Um, and like people just like old games in the same way they like old any other art form.
Yeah.
Without having to like couch it in nostalgia all the time.
Yeah, because I feel like it's like, I don't know, it's working on a Game Boy game is just like a specific type of software slash hardware. And
Right.
like that can still exist today and you can feel nostalgia about it 10 years from now, even though it's not as old as the quote unquote older Game Boy games. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Because this is just me in particular, but I always like equate like nostalgia with a specific kind of like, I don't know. Here's like the very commercial stuff I liked as a kid, not just anything old.
mm,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, I feel like nostalgia is kind of weird for me because it's like it is stuff I liked as a kid, but it's also just like, oh, I wish I could play this game. I wish I could wipe my memory and play this game again
Right.
from the beginning. And it'll be like a game I played like last week or something.
Yes. Right. Well, the secret is you just go back and play like games every like 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been playing through a lot of old, not necessarily all the way through, but I've been as frequent listeners might know, I've been going through using like retro achievement stuff
Mm,
as a guide to like, hey, using their like challenges as a suggestion to like play X, Y, Z games.
right.
And I've and two games that I'm like, wow, these games still rock unequivocally are like just today I was playing We Love Katamari.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and last month I think I was playing a lot through Shadow of the Colossus, and I was like,
Mhm.
it also makes me go, oh, people took the wrong message away from Shadow of the Colossus. Uh, of like, it's not just like the boss fights are a part of it, but not like
That's not the main thing.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's like that's not the main artistry. Is that you fight a lot of bosses. Um, but I feel like that was like the cultural takeaway for a lot of people for Shadow of the Colossus,
Hmm.
and I think that sort of makes me think about like games and people like coming back to games, and maybe in like what is older game viewing culture in like 10 years, uh,
Yeah.
as like nostalgia's kind of faded away a little. Uh,
Yeah.
who knows? A lot of people know about friggin' Haunting Ground. Apparently, everyone keeps talking about haunting. All the kids know about Haunting Ground nowadays.
They do?
Well, it used to be
Yeah, I don't
like
even know what this is.
it was like a PS2 Capcom
Oh.
survival horror game with like a dog. Uh, it was
Oh.
I used it a lot as like a go-to like example of like an also ran like genre game that kind of got forgotten by time in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. But then everyone's like, more recently, as I've mentioned to people, are like, oh yeah, I know Common Ground. So it's interesting to see like things come back. Like I don't know if it's like through video essays or like
Hmm.
Yeah.
YouTubers or what it is, but like games kind of coming back into like culture and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
On a similar note, an old horror game that was coming back up because of like game analysis was the Piglet's Big Game. And it
Okay.
was like Piglet running around. People were like
Oh, yeah. Now,
analyzing how he'd
yeah.
run faster. And
elephants and atmospheric horror, and I was like, oh my God, I've never heard of this game. And now it's like becoming more and more well known that I think eventually like the physical copies that were left in the world were like already sold out.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing on. Those are news articles when I was going to just get to grab the game of. Yes, they're selling it. And that is right. It's people rediscovering it outside of the context of like
When it was releasing.
right. And people, and I think part of it is like I'm hoping that as partially as more indie devs are like using like very practically lower fi aesthetics uh,
Mhm.
that match up with older, that more aesthetically key up with older games, because of course it's easier and cheaper to do. So why wouldn't you, why would you force yourself to make like absurd, big budget graphics? Like, oh, I'm going to work within my means. Um,
Yeah.
but those means also kind of sync up with the means of the hardware like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it kind of hopefully like flattens like how people view games, and like so like, oh yeah, this looks like an indie game that I know, or they're not like, oh, these are retro games. Who knows?
Mhm.
You can
But
always hope and pray.
right,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'll tell you one thing: I'm not paying $300 for Piglet's Big Adventure. Piglet's Big Game.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Nice try. Um, but game prices are a whole other thing.
Oof.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Evan. But that all said, we are approaching. Not approaching. We exceeded. Uh, uh, what a. We exceeded 2 hours here. Here on Indiepocalypse Radio. So, Geneva, Amy, do you have any last minute questions, statements that are non plug related before we start to wrap up?
Um, I hope you're having a good day and remember to drink water just now.
I have a giant one of those. My thing is 112 ounces.
Amazing.
Oh, wow. Good.
Drinking enough for a family.
Yes.
Um, I guess I have a question for you, Andrew.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you see, um, like, because you started the cassette version of Indiepocalypse a little bit more recently, and like, I want to say 2 years ago that I know of.
Uh, I maybe I don't remember when it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, there's like two. I started recently, but I could have started 2 years ago for all I know.
It could have been only one, but I do
Right.
remember it's been some time, and I've
Yeah.
personally, as you, I think I've mentioned to you when I met you at a Play NYC, but like I am obsessed with people bringing the physical like aspect to games in a more like zine style,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it's very thrilling personally to see it. Do you see like Indiepocalypse being distributed like more on the physical side rather than itch?
I like it's. In a lot of ways, it does sell better physically than on itch. Uh, like when I go to events, it does tend to like sell better than it does when I'm like just like putting a monthly release out on itch. Where sometimes maybe
Hmm.
they'll sell like 4 or 5 copies, which is something I can sell like at Anime NYC. I sold something like 1,800 $2,000 worth of stuff.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's why I can go to events, because I make money at events. Well, I don't necessarily make money, but don't lose. I don't really lose money.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Um, but yeah, that is. I think it was like designed like I did not plan around. Like despite its timing, this was not like a COVID project. Um, COVID actually put like a lot of like, oh, that was. I very much planned for it to be a like physical event. That's why the zine portion of it exists. Like it was very much meant to be at physical events, and I figured it would be like a physical event forward sort of thing.
Hmm.
Mhm. Do you
And
see it like if you would you ever like sorry to just to
go ahead. No.
pick your brain since I have the
Yes.
opportunity to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you see like selling copies at like a bookstore? Because like something that, you
Ooh.
know, bookstores nowadays kind of allow indie like writers and creators to like keep their copies at bookstores, like local bookstores. Do you think you would see yourself having those tapes there, or like even music stores that still sell like physical copies of music? Like, do you see the games entering those physical spaces? Like, not even just like if Indiepocalypse specifically, but do you think seeing indie games physically at local stores is now an option outside of itch?
Yeah, that's something I want to do a lot more in like 2025. Like that's like a 2025 project is how do I get Indie Apocalypse into like physical stores, you know? Uh as a, like cuz it's weird cuz there aren't that many like game shops in the same like most game shops are like resellers, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they're not like
or
the same.
GameStop.
Right, right. Right, or like indie shops that are mostly like retro reseller kind of thing. So it's not like the same. I don't live near any of them, so that also
Mhm.
makes it a lot harder. But yeah, thinking about like how do we get these things like, um, in front of people, yeah, like physically.
Yeah.
Uh, that's why like I've been printing everyone else like anyone who wants. That's why I print their games like on like physical editions. Uh, I've
Great service.
I sent like I sent maybe like 200 of them or 300 of
Oh my
them
gosh.
to out to like two and a half is that the name of them? Two and a half studios, something very close to that.
Hmm.
Uh,
I wouldn't know them, but that isn't.
they're a visual novel developer. Yes, I was
Yeah, that's
right.
what I was like. I've
Oh,
heard of them.
Yes,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
seeing their games now.
I sent them about like 200 or 300 of them,
Wow.
because and to sell an event, and they sold out of them.
Oh,
And then
wow.
That's great.
and then I sold a bunch. I sent them a bunch more for like they sell through their shop.
Hmm.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so I think you can still get them on their shop, maybe, if you're out there. Um, yes, there they are. USB cassettes. They're sitting there right on the front page. Yeah, so if you go to two and
Oh,
a half
Oh my
wow.
studios.com, you can get a bunch of their visual novels there on the little cassettes, and you can see all those little things and all those pictures of cassettes. I made all those by hand.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
but yeah, and like part of that is like, while I do have a online shop, as well where I sell people's games, like that's like I consider it to be strictly optional. Like none of these
Yeah.
two and a half games are on two and a half studios games are on my shop, and they never have been because they just wanted to like buy like runs of tapes, to sell through their shop
Mhm.
and at cons.
Right.
And people clearly like want to buy them. I just ordered another 100 USB sticks, uh,
Let's go.
and I've probably I don't know. I'd have to do the count, but I'm probably I think I'm easily over 500, if not over 1,000.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, um, but like people are looking to like get physical stuff of indie games, and uh, I think like with time, I think this is tied very much to like your indie collectives, like your Dobra Studios and your Domino clubs, and stuff like that, where it's the zine space. It's that true like hobbyist, experimental indie, whatever words you want to use to describe them, and they all individually probably go by different words to describe each different group, but like
Hmm.
it's zines.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's indie, like the indiest of indie culture, within games.
Mhm.
Um,
The OGs, ones could say.
right,
Yeah.
right. It's that kind of like that bedroom dev scale of art making. Um, I think you're ideally gonna see more of that in games. I think it's most like stands out most at like cons, like what's an indie game show that doesn't feel like very commercial, like a maze is like the closest you get, I think.
Yeah.
But most of them are like very like commercially focused.
Yeah.
And it's like you're going to spend $2,000 on a booth and you're not going to sell anything there.
Mm.
You're going to, spend $2,000 to run a preview of your game.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, who can afford that? That's who goes.
Yeah, basically.
Rather than spending a couple hundred for like a table where you're expected to sell all your games. So I think if that picks up more in games, maybe, who knows? Anyway, I think that's a very long way to answer. Yes, I would like to get in shops.
Heck yeah.
I would love to get a vending machine.
Ooh,
Oh, wait, that would be
That would
sick.
be so fun.
I have nowhere to
I
put it, but
Oh my gosh. No, but you could totally do that because it could be shipped at conference. Like you wouldn't even have a table.
Exactly.
You would just be there.
right. Oh god, I mean that'd be super expensive to ship, but
Oh gosh.
yeah, but
Or local.
Yes,
But you could just like literally leave it there.
right. I would love if I had like a local dev space where it was like, because I don't think the local Boston's has like a specific space that is like their office space.
Mm.
Oh, I wonder if I get in.
Do you think a person could sneak a vending machine into a mall and like put it next to other vending machines?
No, I think someone would notice,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I think they're too big.
Dang.
Maybe some of them. There is a mall around me that's very sleepy, but then I
Yeah,
wouldn't
a
want
very
to put
sleepy mall.
I wouldn't want to put it in there because it's so sleepy.
I
Yeah.
see.
But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of space for just like truly like independent zine scale, like printing at home in my own means for games that like, because I think also like games can feel so commercial,
Yeah.
that the impulse is to reject that fully and go completely free, where also it's nice to be free. I don't require any people in Indiepocalypse to like make their games paid if they get accepted or anything.
Right.
But there's also like, oh, what if he had money? That's nice too, considering you need that for like food.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, that is the end of that line of thought that I have.
Thank you.
No, thank you. You did the one thing, you like activated me to talk about games, and I went games. Yes. Let me tell you about games. Very passionate about independent art, as one might imagine. Though I always feel weird like talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that I think about of like, I don't necessarily want to like Indiepocalypse does the talking because it feels weird. Like if I was more vocal about like, oh, here are some of the games that I played on my own that I really liked.
Mm.
I never want people to like see the things that I like and then think, oh, well, that's all that person likes. They wouldn't like my thing, even though I probably would.
Right.
But I can only play so much stuff, and I obviously have my own like specific tastes that I'm drawn to. But I never want those things that I'm drawn to make anyone think that is the entirety of the output. So it's a weird thing to think about. But anyway, any other final statement, or would you like to? Are we ready to wrap up fully?
We're done.
Yeah. I'm good.
Well, perfect. So we're gonna go around the circle, and let me look where the circle is. There it is. There's my circle. So Geneva, if people are looking, we've talked about your work earlier. If people are looking to find that work, where would they look? Where would you recommend them to go to?
Well, I would recommend you follow me on socials at Gensuta, GENSUTA. I have games on itch. Validate and Treachery and Beatdown City are on Steam, so y'all can check that out. And yeah, skate and date updates you'll find on social media.
Perfect. Yes, and that is unified usernames across them all.
Yep, Twitter, Blue Sky, all of them.
The handiness of it all. Amy, if people are looking for your work, same question. Where can they find it?
Yeah, I mean, you can go. Usually, I direct people to go to my personal site, my
Yes.
portfolio site. So it's just my name spelled out.com, AMIYCAI.com. And usually I put socials on a slash links.
Yes,
So
a very
because
handy place to put those.
yeah, because I don't trust any website anymore.
No, no.
Yeah.
Neither.
I just put it all like yeah, topics aside about cards or, link trees aside.
Yes.
Yeah. Oof.
Even those, I'm
I just
like, if you set up a link tree, just get your own website.
Yeah, NeoCities is right
Right.
there.
it's right
Right.
there.
And
Just make a page and drop a bunch of links.
right. And you know what's the best way to get people to those links? What about getting your own domain name?
Yep, yep, yep.
Even
Yeah.
if it's a card, even if it's a link tree, even if it's NeoCities, you know it's a great thing? Having your own domain name that goes to it. So,
Hmm.
speaking of your own domain name, hey, indiepocalypse.com is where you get Indiepocalypse.
Woohoo!
It's how where I highly recommend that be the place where you buy it because I get paid a lot faster through that, and it's perpetually on sale there, um, for only $10. It's also the best place to get physical editions of Indiepocalypse, those tapes we were mentioning earlier. Besides finding me in person and asking for them, but because on itch does not have a good way to tell you if, say, you have 60 products, if somebody bought a physical reward for one of them. It does not have an easy way to tell you that, but my website does. If you're curious about submitting games, of course, that's indiepocalypse.com/submit. There's of course, if you just want to subscribe to it, is indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. You can also, for that's like a standard subscription, but at $5 you get access to just the commissioned games, which is, hey, that's a cool new game from exciting, fresh developers all over the world, delivered straight to you once a month. That's it. I don't have any more links. I don't think that's everything I got. I probably have more, but if you think I have a thing, type indiepocalypse.com/that thing, and if it exists, it'll probably redirect to there. Geneva, Amy, thank you both for joining me here today. Glad to have you. True pleasure to do this show every week, almost every week, and
Thank you
have
for having us.
Thank you for having me, and it was awesome talking to y'all both.
yeah, very glad to have you both here. I'm looking for my. Oh, there's OBS. I was looking for OBS so I could transition over to the outro. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Oh, you know what? Out there, thank you for listening. Got it again. Nailed it 100 times. Yes. Goodbye for now.